So, what's the real story of Mary Magdalene? What is the truth? This video is going to be a little bit different to my usual videos where I channel or I hold a meditation around the frequency of the rose line or the roses, all aspects of the rose line, because this has been on my mind lately, just this idea of truth. And a couple of things have brought it to the surface. When I've done some videos before on Mary Magdalene, a couple of times there have been comments and people have said, well, that's actually not the truth. You know, this is what happened. And someone even corrected me and said, that's not her name. And, you know, we can really get attached to what our version of truth is. And then more recently, I had a situation and someone said to me, understandably, you know, I'm hearing your stories about something, but I want to find my own, which is wonderful and I think is very important for all of us to do. But I would like to address this idea that because a story is told, that story is truth. Because a book has been written, that book is truth and should be the truth for everyone who reads it. This is not what story is about. This is not what legends are about. They hold a code, and that code has a certain frequency, but the gift in that code is it can meet multiple frequencies. So many people can read something or hear something, and depending on the frequency that they hold in their energetic being at that time, they will connect to a different frequency of the story. And so this is why you may read a book about Mary Magdalene's life and you think, oh my gosh, that is amazing, and just it's like fireworks go off inside because there is so much resonance for you. And then you give that book to your friend and they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's interesting, because it's met your frequency. And I find this quite fascinating. I read a lot about Mary Magdalene prior to and in the period after taking my first retreat to Provence, which was in 2008. So probably the 2 or 3 years before that, I read so many books. I read every book there was to read about Mary Magdalene, and I had lots of activation from those books, a lot. It was truly like, oh my God. And I think often when you do that, it's like, oh, I feel truth, that's truth. And it is truth, or it was truth for me, where I was at then. It was truth, because that book and what was being shared in that book and the frequency of the words in that book was activating a frequency in me. It was activating a wisdom. It was unlocking a wisdom in me. So I wasn't reading that book and gaining knowledge and going, okay, here's the story. She went here and she went there and she had a child there, and then she went there and had a child there, and then those children did that, and then she lived here and did that. That's knowledge. And often the books are written that way, and it gives you knowledge which is taught to you, but it doesn't unlock your wisdom. And the gift of these books is that they unlock a wisdom in you. There is an energetic frequency that unlocks a wisdom in you and enables you to expand in your energetic frequency. And you might find, I've often found this, I will go back now and read a book from that time, which was so activating for me. It changed my life. And I'm like, okay, right, interesting. I end up flicking because I've already received the activation. And I might give that book to someone else who reads it and says, OMFG, like it's just like, oh, wow, my whole world has just changed. And this is not about being at levels at all. We are all having our wisdom unlocked. And so it is just encountering the right coding in the right words at the right time to unlock that wisdom. And this truly is what fairy tales were about. The stories even of the Celts, who didn't so much record them, but told stories. They passed down stories. And the stories probably changed, but it was the frequency of the story that was important, not the detail of the story. And so I really wanted to make this video to share with you my perspective. And my perspective is, don't get hung up on the story. Receive the codes. Receive the key that's unlocking the wisdom in you. And just because every other Tom, Dick and Harry is reading a book and saying this is amazing, if there's a part of you saying, I don't really feel drawn to read that book, but I'm obviously missing out on something, I better read it, and then find yourself ploughing through this book, it's not right for you. It's really important. This is discernment. And it's also not getting attached to these stories and to the knowledge, and just allowing the frequency of the energy to wash over you. Now, I've used Mary Magdalene as an example here because she is activating so many codes, or I should say her frequency is activating so many codes in so many people around the world as we become much more aware of finding this sacred union within. But all of the beings of the Rose Line who I channel are similar. So if I look at the 11 oracles of the Rose Line, and I'll just pull a few that are better known, are Frances of Assisi, Joan of Arc, Morgan Le Fay. They all have stories told about them. And they're different stories depending on the perspective of the author. And some of those stories will activate us and some won't. And yet it's about the same being. But it's because every story is written with a different frequency. So go to those stories that you're drawn to. Let them unlock the wisdom within you. But do not get attached to the story. Do not get attached to the fact. And I was thinking this morning as I was walking on the beach about this fact or fiction. This delineation, that's fact, that's fiction. It's like there can be none of this crossing over. Who is to say that that's fact? Who is to say that that's fiction? I mean, how many fiction books have revealed more and more fact? 1984 comes to mind. There are many. There are many. It's all drawing on a wisdom. Some focus more on knowledge, admittedly, but know that they all have a key to unlocking a wisdom within you. So in many ways, what I'm saying is that there is no right or wrong. There is what activates you, what is true for you in this moment, and know that that will most likely change. And this is the evolution of the Magdalene energy, the evolution of the Magdalene energy within you. And it's really beautiful. So allow the activation, allow the unlocking of the wisdom within you, and let go of whether a story is true or not. Allow it to weave its magic through you. This is the power of the rose. This is the beauty of the rose. This is the activation of the rose line within you. And share whichever stories light you up, because they will hold codes for others to hear. Rose blessings and Magdalene blessings to you.